Okay, students, now we are going to start the second part of the gravitation. In first part, we have seen Kepler's law and acceleration due to gravity and effect of height and depth on acceleration due to gravity. Now in the next part, we are going to study about the gravitational potential energy. We know that if the position of the particle changes on account of forces acting on it, then the change in its potential energy is just the amount of work done on the body by the force. The force of gravity is a conservative force and we can calculate the potential energy of a body arising out of this force, called the gravitational potential energy. Students, here one thing very important. Generally, how we can calculate the potential energy, I am using the term only potential energy here. Potential energy is what? This is the amount of work done on the body by the force when, because of the force, the body is changing its position. So some work is done on the body and that work done would be equal to the potential energy of the object. Now if we want to define gravitational potential energy, we'll derive the expression using the concept that when gravitational force is acting on the object and the object is changing its position under the influence of gravitational force, the work done by the gravitational force would be equal to the gravitational potential energy. Now, how we can calculate or derive the expression of the gravitational potential energy? Now consider a point outside the earth. The force of gravitation on the particle directed towards the center of the earth is, here I am drawing one diagram here. Consider this is earth. For simplicity, I am going to consider this to be a sphere. And let us consider one object is lying here whose mass is small m and mass of the earth is me. Now, the distance between this small mass and center of the earth is r. Now when this mass is lying here and this is total mass of the earth which is supposed to be situated at the center of the earth. Now at this position, the gravitational force on this small mass m due to this earth is g times product of the masses, that is me into m over r square. So this is the gravitational force acting on the object. If we now calculate the work done in lifting a particle from R1 to R2. R2 here is greater than R1 along a vertical path. For example, we want to lift the object from the distance R1 to R2. I am drawing it here. This is R1 and this is R2. This is this is the distance from the center of the earth. So you need to take the particle from the distance R1 to R2 along a vertical path. So how much work would be done? That we know that because this force is the variable force. So you need to use this concept of doing work done. Work done in taking the object from position 1 to position 2 is what? Integration of force into dr. Small work done you can calculate. Small work done if you are displacing the object through a small distance, that would be f dr. So you will substitute the value of this f here, and total work done if you want to find out, you will integrate this expression from the limits r1 to r2. Now you see, this g is constant, me is constant, m is constant. You need to integrate. I am drawing it here. You have to integrate 1 over r square with respect to r. And limits are from r1 to r2. Now, what would be the integration of 1 over r square? This would become r raised to power minus 2. Using the simple formula of integration, x raised to power n dx, that would be x raised to power n plus 1 over n plus 1. So what you will get? The integration would be 1 over minus r, or simply I am writing minus 1 over r, and limits are from r1 to r2. So when you will substitute these limits here, this minus sign is here. So 1 over r2 minus 1 over r1. So this is the work done when you are taking the object from the point r1 to r2 along the vertical path. Now, if I am setting r1 as infinity and r2 is r, suppose you are bringing the object from infinity to a point r, then in the last equation, what you will get? W for r infinity is equal to potential energy at infinity is equal to 0. So work done, or simply we can write here V, potential at infinity or potential energy at infinity is 0, because when the object is at infinity, we will say that the gravitational force acting on the object would be 0, and because of gravitational force is 0, work done or gravitational potential energy of the object at infinity would be 0. So that the potential energy at a point is just the amount of work done in displacing the particle from infinity to that point. So if you want to define the gravitational potential energy at a point, one of the point we consider to be at infinity. And how we can define gravitational potential energy? This would be the work done in bringing the object from infinity to that point where we want to explain or tell the gravitational potential energy. So total amount of work done in bringing the object from infinity to that point. So here R2, R1 we are going to substitute infinity, so R2 is equal to R. So we are bringing the object from infinity to point R. So in that case it would become 1 over infinity would become 0. So you will get the expression minus g MEM over R. So this is what? This is the gravitational potential energy at a point R, at a point which is at a distance r from the center of the earth. So this is the expression. Suppose this point is at a distance r from the center of the earth. So this expression is going to give you the expression of the gravitational potential energy at this point P, which is at a distance r from the center of the earth. Here we have calculated the potential energy at a point of a particle due to gravitational force on it due to the earth, and it is proportional to the mass of the particle. So you can see here, when we are talking about gravitational potential energy, it is proportional to the mass of the object. The gravitational potential due to the gravitational force of the earth is defined as the potential energy of a particle of unit mass at that point. Here what we are defining? Gravitational potential. So what is gravitational potential? This is the gravitational potential energy of the particle of unit mass at that point. Here this expression is giving us gravitational potential energy at point P. But if you want to define gravitational potential of earth at point P, this would be the gravitational potential energy of the particle of unit mass at this point. So this is the way how we can measure the gravitational potential, by taking mass of the object as unit. Now, from the earlier discussion, we learned that the gravitational potential energy associated with two particles of masses m1 and m2 separated by the distance r. So here 2 times it is written. Separated by a distance r is given by minus g m1 m2 over r. So this is a general expression for the potential energy between two masses. In the above case, we have taken one mass as mass of earth. Second mass is mass of the object. But if any two masses, they are separated by some distance r, this mass is m1, this mass is m2, and they are separated by a distance r, then there is the gravitational potential energy of this system of two masses, that would be minus g times m1 m2 over r. So this is the gravitational potential energy of any two masses, arbitrary masses m1 and m2. Now, you can see the gravitational potential energy is of any object. Gravitational potential energy of any system of masses is inversely proportional to the distance between the two masses. If the distance between the masses is more, gravitational potential energy would be less, or simply gravitational potential would be less at larger distance from the earth or from the mass. Now, and this minus sign, this negative sign is showing the bound system. This force, gravitational force, is attractive force in nature. This is attractive in nature. So that is why this minus sign is appearing here. So what is the significance of this minus sign? This shows that the system, the potential energy is the bound. It is binding the two particles together. So if this potential energy would be positive potential energy we get for the repulsive forces. But here we are getting negative potential energy, which shows that the nature of the force is attractive. And we already know it, the gravitational force is attractive force. Now, going to the next topic, that is the escape velocity or escape speed. What's the meaning of the escape speed? We know that if any object we are throwing out of the earth, if you are throwing any object in the upward direction, it will come back to the center of the earth or on the surface of the earth. Reason is because of earth's gravitational force is attractive, so it is going to attract the objects towards its center. But what would happen if we are able to give the speed to the object so that it goes out of the gravitational force of the earth? Suppose the range of this is at infinity, this line I have drawn which is at infinity, and let us consider that the earth is able to attract any object till this boundary. And if you are able to give the speed of any object, or you are throwing the object with some minimum velocity or speed, that it is able to just cross the gravitational field of the earth, then it will never come back to the surface of the earth, because it has gone out of the gravitational field of the earth. So the minimum velocity that is needed for a free object to escape from the gravitational influence of a planet, that is to achieve an infinite distance from it. So that minimum velocity which is required to throw the object out of the gravitational influence of the planet is called escape speed, or in simple words, escape velocity. Now, how we can find out the expression of that escape velocity? So in order to find out the derivation or expression, we can use the principle of conservation of energy. So this simple principle of conservation of energy we are going to use here to derive the expression of escape velocity. Suppose the object did reach infinity and that its speed there was Vf. The energy of an object is the sum of potential and kinetic energy. We know that when the object is going from the surface of earth to infinity, at any point, whatever the point you are considering, the total energy is sum of two energies, kinetic energy and potential energy. Now, if this is the initial point and this is the final point, so here initially the object is on the surface of the earth, finally it is going at a distance, infinite distance from the center of the earth. Then the total energy before, initial total energy, and final total energy would be same. Now initial energy is potential energy initial plus kinetic energy initial. Final is potential energy final plus kinetic energy final. But you see, we have given the velocity to the object that it is able to just cross the gravitational force, and here we will assume that velocity is very less or approximately 0. So kinetic energy at the final position would be 0, and we know that potential energy is inversely proportional to the distance, that is r. If r is becoming infinity, potential energy is also becoming 0. So total energy, this total final energy at infinity would be 0. So total energy at infinity would be 0. So we have to concentrate on the initial total energy of the object when it is on the surface of the earth, and will equate that energy to 0 to find out the escape velocity. Now let us consider VE is the escape velocity of the particle. So this is the velocity which we are giving to the object. So what is the kinetic energy at that point? This would be half mv square. Initially the kinetic energy of the object is half mv square. And what is the gravitational potential energy? So that would be minus g m over re, because we are considering that the object is on the surface of the earth. So this is the initial energy of the object when it is on the surface of the earth. And finally its energy would become 0. So total energy of the body would remain conserved. So we have to put this initial energy equal to the final energy, which is equal to 0. Now from this expression, this small m is going to get cancelled, and VE square would be g times me 2 times gme over re, or it would be under root of this expression 2gme over re. But we know that the acceleration due to gravity is gme over re square. So gme is what? So gme is g times re square. So you can substitute it here. Gme is 2 is already there. So this would be g re square over re. So one re is going to get cancelled, and you will get the expression for the escape velocity as under root 2 times gre, where ra is the radius of the earth. Now if you want to substitute or you want to calculate the escape velocity for the earth, these are two constant values. G, we know that it is 9.8 meter per second square. RE is 6400 kilometer for earth. When you will substitute these constant values here in this expression, you will get escape velocity as 11.2 kilometer per second. So this is the minimum velocity which should be given to an object so that the object can go out of the gravitational influence of the earth. The escape speed of the moon turns out to be 2.3 kilometer per second, which is very less as compared to this value. So if you want to find out the escape velocity of the moon, value of g and value of re, you have to substitute for any of the planet. So r is the radius of the planet, g is the acceleration due to gravity of that planet. So for moon it is 2.3 kilometer per second, about 5 times smaller. This is the reason that moon has no atmosphere, because the escape velocity is very less. Gas molecules, if formed on the surface of the moon having velocities larger than this velocity, will escape the gravitational pull of the moon. Generally, the velocities of the gas molecules is greater than this velocity, so they already have velocity which is greater than the escape velocity, so they can easily escape the gravitational pull of the moon. So that is why gases are not present on the surface of the moon, or in other words we can say moon has no atmosphere. Next topic is Earth's satellites. Earth satellite. What is satellite? Earth satellites are objects which revolve around the Earth. The motion is similar to the motion of the planets around the sun. Hence, Kepler's law of planetary motion are equally applicable to them. In particular, their orbits around the Earth are circular or elliptic. Moon is the only natural satellite of Earth with a near circular orbit with a time period of approximately 27.3 days, which is also roughly equal to the rotational period of the moon about its own axis. So moon is taking almost same time to complete its rotation as well as revolution around the Earth. Since 1957, advances in technology have enabled many countries, including India, to launch artificial Earth satellites for the practical use in fields like telecommunication, geophysics, and meteorology. So, artificial satellites, we are going to study how these satellites are launched and what type of satellites are there, what is the velocity, at what height they are revolving around the Earth. So these things we are going to discuss in the next topics. So first I'll tell you how the satellites are launched in their orbits. I'm drawing one diagram here, a small Earth I'm going to draw here. We know that if any object is thrown in the upward direction, it will come back on the surface of the Earth. So if you are giving some projection, it will come back on the surface of the Earth. More projection it is given, it will come back on the surface of the Earth. And again it will come back on the surface of the Earth. But if you are able to give the velocity or to the satellite that it will always skip the Earth, then it will keep revolving around the Earth in the search of the Earth. So that minimum velocity you have to give to the satellite, that it will keep revolving around the planet. So that minimum velocity we are going to calculate, and at what height this satellite would be revolving, so that distance of the orbit we will find out. So this is the principle of launching of the satellites in their orbits. So if you are giving smaller velocity, they will come back on the surface of the Earth. So though you have to give sufficient velocity to the satellites that they will put in the orbits, and they will keep revolving around the Earth because they are trying to fall towards the center of the Earth. But every time they will skip the Earth. When they are going to fall on the Earth, every time they are skipping the Earth and they will keep revolving around the Earth. We will consider a satellite in a circular orbit of a distance of RE. So RE plus H from the center of the Earth. So why we are taking RE plus H? H is the height of the satellite. So if this is the circular Earth we are going to draw here. So let us consider this is the center of the Earth. RE is the radius of the Earth. And let us consider the satellite is here at a distance H from the surface of the Earth. So total, so this is the orbit of the satellite. So we can say that the radius of the orbit of the satellite is RE plus H. From the center of the Earth, where RE is the radius of the Earth, M is the mass of the satellite, and V is its speed. The centripetal force required for this orbit is, we know that if any object is moving in a circular path, there is some centripetal force, and we know that what is that centripetal force, that is mv square over r, where r is the radius of the circular path. So here m is the mass of the satellite, v is the velocity of the satellite, re plus h is the radius of the circular orbit in which the satellite is revolving, and it is always directed towards the center of the Earth. From where the centripetal force is coming, what is the main reason that this will keep revolving around the Earth, that satellite? The reason is the gravitational force, because Earth is continuously attracting the satellite towards its center. So the gravitational force is the main reason to provide this centripetal force. So gravitational force is what? That is G times MEM over RE plus H square. That is G M1 M2 over R square. So R here is RE plus H square. So this is the gravitational force which is providing us this necessary centripetal force required for the satellite to revolve around the planet. So equating both these equations, what you will get? We have to equate this small m would be cancelled, one RE plus H would be cancelled. So V square you will get G ME over RE plus H. So you see, the velocity of the satellite will decrease as H increases. So if the satellite is going away more height, if the satellite is at more height, the velocity of the satellite would be less. Now if H is approximately equal to 0, it is not exactly equal to 0, but you see, if the satellite is very near to the surface of the earth, then this H can be neglected, and V square would be G times ME over RE. But GME, we know that GME is GRE square from the expression of small g. So velocity of the satellite for low altitude satellites would be G times RE. G is 9.8, R is 6400 kilometers. So you can find out the velocity of very low altitude satellites using this expression. Time period of the satellite. How we can find out the time period? How much time is required by the satellite to complete its revolution around the planet? In every orbit, the satellite traverses a distance 2 pi RE plus H with speed V. We know that if this is any planet, we are talking about Earth here, and you see, if this is the satellite which is revolving around the planet, now for one complete rotation, for one complete revolution, what is the total distance traveled? That is the circumference of this orbit. Circumference of this orbit is what? 2 pi r. What is r here? That is RE plus H. So 2 pi RE plus H is the total distance traveled for one revolution with velocity v. We need to calculate only time taken to complete this revolution. So simple formula of velocity is equal to distance over time we are going to apply here to find out the time period. So velocity is distance over time and time is distance over velocity. And the expression of velocity we can substitute here. Velocity from the last expression, we can substitute GME over RE plus H under root. So here you will get 3 by 2. So this is the expression for the time period of the satellite around the planet. On substituting the value from the equation, both sides we can get T square is K times RE plus H cube. Here squaring, we are doing the squaring both sides, and the constant value here, when you are squaring this side, you will get 4 pi square GME RE plus H. So this is the constant term, so we can substitute this term as small k. Now you can see here, this is T square is equal to K times RE plus H cube. What is RE plus H cube? So this is the radius of the orbit in which the satellite is revolving, and this is the Kepler law of periods that we have already discussed in the last lecture, that T square is proportional to A cube. A was the semi-major axis for the planets. So you can see here the same law is applicable for the satellites also. For a satellite very close to the surface of Earth, H can be neglected again. So we can, using the same approximation we have used for the velocity. So if the satellite is revolving very much near to the surface of the Earth, H can be neglected, and what you will get, so here you can neglect H here. So you will get for such satellites, T is T naught, where T naught is 2 pi times RE over G. So when you will simplify this, you will get this expression for the time period of satellite having very low altitude. When you will substitute the values RE as 6400 km, G as 9.8 meter per second square, so you will get one particular value of the time, that is 85 minutes. Means if a satellite is very close to the surface of the earth, it can complete one of its revolution in only 85 minutes. So it will take 85 minutes to complete one revolution around the earth. So this expression, this time period is only for those satellites whose height is very less as compared to the radius of the earth. Now next is energy of an orbiting satellites. So total energy is, we know that we are talking about kinetic energy and potential energy. Total energy would be the sum of these two energies. So we can substitute the values to find out the kinetic energy and potential energy. We know that the kinetic energy is half mv square. V we have already derived. The expression of V we can substitute here. So this V is V square, that is G times me over Re plus H. So you will get this as the expression of the kinetic energy of the satellite. Potential energy of the satellite, potential energy expression we have already calculated, derived. So this is the expression of the potential energy. So total energy is what? This is the sum of the two energies. So when you will take the sum of these two energy, this is minus sign. Potential energy is, you see, this is a negative sign appearing, which is showing the bound state system. So when you will add these two energies, what you will get? This is minus times G me over 2 times Re plus H. So here you can see the total energy of an circularly orbiting satellite is thus negative, with the potential energy being negative but twice is in magnitude of the positive kinetic energy. So one very important thing you can see here, kinetic energy and total energy, you can see the magnitudes are exactly equal, but total energy is negative. And potential energy, you can see this is also negative, but this is 2 times the kinetic energy. So total energy is also negative, which is showing again the bound system, means the satellites, they are bound with the planet. So it is showing some binding between the planet and satellite because of the attractive gravitational forces between the two. Now some special type of satellites we are going to discuss in the last topic. First is geostationary satellites. Geostationary satellites, what is the meaning of this? Stationary means at rest. Geo here is for Earth. So the satellites which appear to be stationary with respect to Earth are called geostationary satellites. So if the circular orbit of a satellite is in equatorial plane of the Earth, having same period as the period of rotation of the Earth about its axis, would appear stationary viewed from a point on the Earth. And for t is equal to 24 hours, we need to find out the height of those satellites. So what are the conditions for a satellite to be stationary? First condition, it has to be orbiting in the equatorial plane of the Earth. And second, its time period should be equal to 24 hours. So if you see, if the satellite is also moving in the direction of rotation of the Earth and it is taking the same time to complete its revolution around the Earth as the time period of rotation of the Earth, and it is revolving in the equatorial plane, so that satellite would appear to be stationary from any point on the surface of the Earth. So when you will substitute, so this time period expression we are taking here. So when you will substitute 24 here, G, M, E, all the other terms, they are constant terms. When you will substitute all the values here, H works out to be 35800 kilometer. So this is another condition out of these three conditions, equatorial plane, its rotation should be same as that of the, you see, rotation of the earth, and time period should be 24 hours, and the height of that satellite comes out to be 35800 kilometer, which is much larger than RE, which is much larger than the radius of the earth, that is only 6400 kilometer. So satellites in a circular orbits around the earth in equatorial plane with t is equal to 24 hours are called geostationary satellites. Clearly, since the earth rotates with the same period, the satellite would appear fixed from any point on the earth. It takes very powerful rockets to throw up a satellite to such large heights above the earth, but this has been done in view of the several benefits of many practical applications. So they are very beneficial satellites. Many of the practical applications are there. So that is why, with some safety and precautions, very powerful rockets are used to throw these satellites to a height of 35,800 kilometer, and these satellites, they must be having the time period of 24 hours, and their you see, they must be revolving in the equatorial plane of the earth. So these are the special characteristics of the geostationary satellites. Last topic is the polar satellite. What is polar satellite? This is another class of satellites. They're called polar satellites. These are low altitude. H for these satellites is 500 to 800 kilometer only, but they go around the poles of the earth in a north-south direction, whereas the earth rotates around its axis in an east-west direction. You see, these are the polar satellites. They must be passing through the poles of the earth. Geostationary satellites, they move around in equatorial plane, but these polar satellites, they would be moving around the earth in a polar plane. And we know that earth rotates in its own axis in an east-west direction. East-west direction, since its time period is around 100 minutes, it crosses any altitude many times a day. These satellites, you see, in case of geostationary satellites, they take 24 hours for its complete revolution around the earth, but the polar satellites, they can complete, because they are low-lying satellites, low-altitude satellites, so they take only 100 minutes to complete their rotation or revolution around the earth. So they can cross any altitude many a times a day. However, since its height h above the earth is about 500 to 800 kilometer, a camera fixed on it can view only small strips of the earth in one orbit. Adjacent strips are viewed in the next orbit, so that in effect the whole earth can be viewed strip by strip during the entire day. These satellites can view polar and equatorial regions at close distances with good resolution. So information gathered from such satellites is extremely useful for remote sensing, meteorology, as well as for environmental studies of the earth. So you can see here the satellite which is revolving around the earth in the equatorial plane. So this is the geostationary satellite, and you see another satellite which is revolving in the polar planes. You can see here the polar plane satellites, they are the polar satellites. So they are revolving in the polar orbits, and this is the geostationary orbits. So this is all about this chapter, gravitation. For checking your knowledge, understanding, you can click on the link given in the description box. There is a test. You can attempt the test to check your understanding. Thank you.